There's a haunting moment in Memories of Murder where the detectives, having pursued a case for years, come face to face with the reality that they may never catch the killer. It's not just the loss of the case, it's the realization that the truth is beyond their grasp, slipping further away with each passing day. This is a story where the terror doesn't stem from what is known, but from the uncomfortable silence that fills the gaps, as the killer remains anonymous and the answers seem increasingly unattainable. This kind of uncertainty is a horror in itself. The fear of never truly understanding what happened, or even if we ever will, leaves us in a constant state of unease. It's a unique type of psychological horror, one that's less about what you can see and more about what you can never fully grasp. In this video, we'll explore why some of the most unsettling stories aren't about what's in front of you, but about the terrifying unknowns that lurk just out of reach. The first on our list, Memories of Murder, 2003, is one of the most unsettling crime films ever made, not because of gruesome violence or shocking twists, but because it forces the audience to sit with uncertainty. Directed by Bong Joon-ho, the film is loosely based on South Korea's first known serial murders, which took place in the 1980s. It follows two detectives, one a hot-headed small-town cop, the other a more methodical investigator from Seoul, who are both desperate to solve a string of brutal killings. At first, they believe they can crack the case using traditional detective work. Suspects are rounded up, interrogations turn violent, and false confessions seem to bring them closer to the truth. But as time passes, the truth remains elusive, and doubt seeps in. Their methods fail them. Their confidence erodes. The once clear lines between justice and desperation blur. What makes Memories of Murder so terrifying is how it builds towards an answer that never comes. Every lead fizzles out. Every certainty collapses. And in the end, the question of who remains unanswered. The film doesn't just depict an unsolved case. It traps the audience in the same endless search for closure as its characters, forcing us to experience that same lingering doubt and frustration. And then there's the final scene. Years after the investigation has gone cold, one of the detectives returns to the site of the crimes. He looks into the camera. At the time this movie was made, the real killer had never been caught. That means when Park stares into the camera, he's not just looking into nothing, he's searching. Searching for someone who could be out there watching him back, maybe even sitting in the audience. The second on our list is Burning, 2018, a film that lingers in the mind long after it ends. At first, it seems like a simple story. Jong-soo, a quiet and reserved young man, reconnects with a girl from his past, Hae-mi. She soon introduces him to Ben, a wealthy and mysterious man who exudes an unsettling confidence. Then, without warning, Hae-mi disappears. Jong-soo is convinced something is wrong, that Ben knows more than he lets on. But the deeper he digs, the more elusive the truth becomes. What makes Burning so unnerving isn't just the mystery. It's the way the film makes us question everything we think we know. Jong-soo becomes obsessed, looking for any sign that confirms his suspicions. But the film never gives us a clear answer. Did something truly happen to Hae-mi? Or is Jong-soo projecting his own insecurities onto Ben? Is the danger real? Or is it all in his head? The tension builds, not through action, but through uncertainty. Every glance, every silence, every missing detail feels like a clue. But the more we search for meaning, the more it slips away. And then there's the final scene. Jong-soo, overwhelmed by his suspicions and frustration, finally snaps. He attacks Ben in a fit of rage, stabbing him repeatedly before setting his car on fire. It's a brutal, desperate act, one that feels like justice but is clouded by doubt. Because the truth is, we never really know if Ben was connected to Hemi's disappearance. Did Jong-soo avenge her, or did he let his paranoia consume him? Like Memories of Murder, Burning doesn't offer easy answers. Instead, it leaves us in that unsettling space between certainty and doubt, where the real horror isn't just what happened, but the fact that we'll never truly know. Our third film on the list is Zodiac, based on a true story, capturing the chilling fear of a case that remains unsolved. The movie centers around the hunt for the infamous Zodiac killer, a serial killer who terrorized Northern California in the late 1960s and early 1970s, sending cryptic letters to the media, taunting law enforcement and the public alike. The film begins with a brutal murder in 1968, where two teenagers are shot at a lover's lane. The killer's signature, sending strange coded letters to newspapers, leaves the police baffled and helpless. What makes the film so terrifying is not just the killings themselves, but the psychological toll on the people trying to find the killer. You have a reporter, a cartoonist, and a detective, each drawn into the case, becoming obsessed, losing their grip on normal life, unable to let go of the mystery. Zodiac masterfully explores the nature of obsession. The characters constantly chase leads that end in dead ends, and the audience shares their frustration as the killer eludes capture time and time again. We see the toll the case takes on them, mentally, emotionally, and physically. The unsettling part of Zodiac is that the movie doesn't offer closure. In fact, it leaves us with the same terrifying question that haunted the characters. Who was the Zodiac killer? There's no definitive answer. The film ends with a haunting scene that shifts our focus to a potential suspect. We watch as a man, whose name is linked to the killer by circumstantial evidence, stands motionless, staring directly at the camera. Is he the killer? We'll never know. It's this ambiguity that gives the film its lasting fear. In the final scene, we're left with the chilling realization that some mysteries may never be solved. Even though we spend the entire film in pursuit of answers, we end up facing the uncomfortable truth that the terror isn't just in the murders, but in the fact that we may never understand who was behind them or why. Our fourth film is Mulholland Drive, a film that pulls you in with the promise of a mystery and leaves you lost in a maze of uncertainty. It begins with a car accident on the winding roads of Mulholland Drive. A woman emerges from the wreckage, disoriented and suffering from amnesia. She doesn't know her name or why she was in that car. Wandering through the city in confusion, she finds refuge in an apartment where she's discovered by Betty, a bright-eyed aspiring actress who has just arrived in Hollywood, full of dreams and ambition. Betty is drawn to the mystery and decides to help the woman, who takes the name Rita from a film poster. As they search for answers, things begin to take a surreal turn. Cryptic phone calls, a mysterious blue box, and an eerie sense that something is deeply wrong cast a shadow over their journey. A man has a terrifying vision of a monstrous figure behind a diner, only to see it come to life. Hollywood itself feels like a dream, a place where identities blur and reality bends. Then the film shifts. The vibrant, dreamlike world vanishes, revealing a much darker truth. Betty is actually Diane, a struggling actress who has lost everything. She was in love with Camilla, Rita's true identity, a successful actress who left her for a director. Overcome with jealousy and despair, Diane hired a hitman to kill Camilla. But the guilt becomes unbearable, and as the illusions crumble, Diane is left in complete isolation, consumed by regret and horror. Was everything we saw a dream? A desperate fantasy created by Diane to escape the pain of her reality? Or was it something even more unsettling? Who is the monstrous figure behind the diner? Is he just a hallucination? Or does he represent something more, even something supernatural? And what about the mysterious blue box? Is it the key to unlocking the truth? Or does it only deepen the illusion? Could there be a force beyond human understanding manipulating these events? Or is it all just the fractured mind of a woman consumed by regret? Mulholland Drive never gives a clear answer. In the end, it leaves us trapped in its mystery. Our fifth and last film is A Serious Man, and it's not a horror film, but a dark comedy. It's one of the greatest films I've ever watched, and I really suggest anyone to go watch it before continuing the video, since I will spoil it. The film follows Larry Gopnik, a physics professor whose life is slowly falling apart. His wife wants to leave him for another man. His son is a rebellious stoner. His daughter steals from him, and his unemployed brother is living on his couch. At work, a student tries to bribe him for a passing grade, and when he refuses, he finds himself facing a potential lawsuit. Everything in Larry's life is going wrong, and he just wants to understand why. So he turns to religion for answers. He seeks guidance from 3 rabbis, each one more useless than the last. The first gives him vague platitudes, the second tells him a bizarre story with no meaning, and the third, supposedly the wisest, won't even see him. No matter how hard Larry tries to find clarity, all he gets are riddles and indifference. And then there's the film's ending. Larry, who has always tried to be a good person, finally gives in and changes the student's grade in exchange for money. The moment he does, his doctor calls with bad news, implying a serious illness. Meanwhile, his son, finally ready for his bar mitzvah, stands outside as a tornado looms toward him. Is this a punishment? A coincidence? Does it even matter? A Serious Man is terrifying in its own way because it offers no answers. Only the unsettling realization that life is chaotic, unfair, and ultimately unknowable. Larry searches for meaning, for justice, for something to explain his suffering. But maybe there's nothing to explain at all. In the end, A Serious Man isn't just about Larry. It's about all of us. It captures the unsettling reality of life itself, where we search for meaning, justice, and certainty, only to be met with silence. No divine intervention, no grand answers, just chaos and randomness. Larry's suffering isn't because he's a bad person, nor is it a test from some higher power. It simply is.